Welcome to week 3 of the Nees Football Coaches Show. With me today is Nees, our head football coach, and I'm your host, Chip Hare. I'd be remiss if I did not mention today we are thinking about a couple people. We're going to talk about our tribute video here that we had on Friday night just a minute ago, here in just a minute. Good friend of ours at Edison Community College, Chris Sargent, suddenly passed. She was a good friend to Edison and certainly a good friend to also Piqua. She did a lot of things behind the scenes, Coach. Helped us with that 5K, get that Mom's K, 5K going, and certainly going to miss her, and we certainly will think of her family. Rolling on to the next memorial that we had on Friday night before the game, we had a video tribute, a beautiful video tribute to Coach John Apple, who was a former player, former professional wrestler, and a former coach. Let's talk just a little bit about John and what he meant to Piqua football and Coach Bill Nees.
Well, he meant a lot to us. I think John was one of the first people, most people don't know even go back this far, he was one of the first people that when we got here at Piqua, we really tried to establish a weightlifting program, and John was one of those first guys that really bought into it. And he was that first kid up in a weight room, along with some other guys, but he was that spearhead up there. And next thing you know, more people show up, and he's the former record holder in a lot of our lifts and things along those lines. And I always felt really indebted to him, and the fact that he was able to and I know everybody says, well, the coaches did a lot, but I think those players did a lot to get everybody else motivated to come up, because if they hadn't, we'd have still been there with our motivational signs and everything like else, and we would have been there by ourselves. So I think that's the first thing we remember about him. And then, of course, endless stories of just he was an entertaining guy. He was a character. Just could quote any movie around, had great comedic timing, and just a guy you could sit down and talk to for long periods of time, and which of course we did. And so from that point on, we just established a very good friendship. I followed his wrestling career, went to his different matches, as did a lot of other people, and that of course was entertaining. We usually like to tease him that he lost his big match. Nothing ever hurt him. He was a 400-pound guy that was unfazable of everything. And of course, he lost his championship match when a guy came in and hit him in the back with a briefcase. So we always used to tease him about the old briefcase to the back deal. But he's obviously a guy that we're going to miss tremendously around here. I know the players that played for him enjoyed it, and the guys that played with him and everybody. One of the biggest compliments you can pay is that everybody that met him remembers him. He's not a guy that you don't remember, and he did not live life vanilla. He was in color. He was in full color.
Well, he certainly was in full color Friday night on our video screen in that tribute. Beautiful video that Coach Bargy put together, and certainly his family was very appreciative of that Friday night. And so we will, there's an A-Bomb Award now. We talked about that. Tell people what the A-Bomb Award is.
Well, what we did was we decided that we're going to have some type of tribute to him on a weekly basis, and we have a plaque inside the locker room, and then we've got a series. Andrew Snyder, one of our coaches, and the graphic arts department of the JVS, the Career Center, they made us probably about that big, and it's a red actual, looks like a bomb, and it's got 71 in it, and we wore them on our helmets, and the coaches wore them, and that was a big tribute. So we got the idea, well, we should just give out an award once a week for what we consider to be the big hit of the week. And a lot of people do that. We just never had a name for it. So now we have a fitting name for it, and along with our other helmet decals, our stickers, one of our players once a week. It was Nate Monin last week, and this week it was Tristan Cox. We're able to get the big red bomb on their helmet, so hopefully kids will want to collect those on their helmets.
Well, certainly the spirit of John was with us Friday night, and we were glad to have that opportunity to pay tribute to him, but he would want us to talk about football, and
yes,
so let's just do that. We came out on Friday, we came out of the tunnel, the fog of running, and the adrenaline was flying, getting ready to kick off, and Mother Nature kicked in. Yeah. And we found ourselves in here in this locker room for 2 hours, waiting out a lightning delay. So really, before the game, there's actually a game behind the scenes there's a game of waiting out. Talk a little bit about what you do to get your kids focused and not to lose their minds for 2 hours, because we didn't know it was going to be 2 hours. We didn't know it was going to be a half hour, 45 minutes. As a coach, how do you work through that?
Well, you have to stretch the truth a little bit sometimes in a locker room. I think the first thing you have to tell them just 10 more minutes, and then just walk away for a while. But I think realistically, we've talked already about what would happen if we have a weather delay. our players already know how they're supposed to act. We already know the expectation that you have, especially the younger guys. We need to find a place to sit down and be quiet. That's the #1 priority. And then the older guys, the guys that are going to play, we kind of give them just a little bit more leeway as to what they need to do. We had some guys walk around a little bit. We had some guys, hit the bathroom, walk down, and it was fortunate that we were at our home field, that we had a little bit more area than just a locker room. So once we got everybody kind of situated, then we have a video system in here and everything, so we turned some of our old highlight films on, and we ended up and watched some highlight films, and all the coaches were in here, players were in here, sat around and just had a good time watching the highlight films. And I think they went through, I think the '94 highlight film, and then they were into the state championship game. And I think both of those, a lot of the kids said, man, I never realized how hard they played or how good, and we had some good players on the film. And that served as a bit of an inspiration for some people.
It was my job that night as athletic director to be the communicator between the official and yourself, and to what was going on. And we found out we were just 1 of 3 games in the Miami Valley that played that night, and we really wanted to play for obvious reasons. But I can tell you, when I came in and finally said, hey, we're ready to go, I think it was even in the paper I read this afternoon that Mr. Cox said that we felt like caged animals, letting them out of the cage. And boy, they were ready to play. They were
ready to play. It's probably one of the more prepared emotionally, psychologically we've been in a while, and I hope that's a trend. I hope that's not something that is just a one-time thing, and I don't think it is with these guys. This is a group of guys, and I've talked about our team chemistry quite a bit, but it's a group of guys that can really get on the edge pretty quick in terms of emotions and in terms of things like that. And they're a very close-knit group. And when one guy does it, everybody else is rolling into it. It's not that one guy yelling and no one even paying attention. It's one guy yelling, somebody else comes in, and it really just kind of, the old rising tide lifting all the ships, so to speak.
We come in to the game playing Urbana, who had lost the week before to London. We don't talk about records on the other teams. We just come out and get ourselves ready to play. We know that Urbana is traditionally a strong team. They had lost quite a few to seniors in graduation. They didn't have a new football coach. But this was an important game for us because we're coming off, this is our first home game, certainly coming off a big win against Toledo St. John's. Let's talk about that first half. Certainly we came out with a lot of momentum and really right from the get-go in the first quarter, we really took it right at them. Yeah,
I think so, and it's one of the things where it happened in all 3 phases. It was not only offense, not only defense, but it was the special teams. And we were able to get unprecedented 2 punt returns for touchdowns. One of them got called back. Our kickoff return team almost broke one, and so our kickoff team was flawless. As a matter of fact, our kickoff team was the star of the game in terms of getting extra helmet decals because of the fact that they had in the 8 kickoffs that we had, Urbana averaged the field position inside their own 20-yard line, which is unheard of.
Right.
And it's especially unheard of in the fact that we've got no seniors on that unit. There are 5 sophomores and 5 juniors. So those kids are really giving it up to help the cause for the seniors.
Well, it was pretty evident. Even our camera gentleman, Ryan, had mentioned he's looking at the defensive goal charts. We met all of our goals on Tuesday or on Friday night against Urbana.
Yeah.
And what was nice too, Coach, was we got a lot of guys a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
We were able to get some other guys in there and give them some reps.
Yeah, we did, and we kept everybody. We had a couple of people that are dinged that are not dinged anymore because we were able to get them in, get a quality performance, and then get them off the field. And so we're coming in, into this game next week now at full strength.
Well, we go into with a final score of 63-7. The Indians on top of Urbana. I would be remiss if I did not mention there was one time in the second quarter. It was early in the second quarter. We had them deep in their territory. We were up 22-0, and they just were really coming on. They were unraveling and amongst everyone's eyes. I think a lot of that had to do with our defensive pressure and just our preparation. And as you mentioned earlier, our guys were emotionally ready to go. All that stuff came in all at one time, and that's really when the game really kind of ended.
I think so. I think that was like a telling sign. They jumped off sides 2 or 3 times. We showed blitz, and they jumped off. We just kept showing the same blitz, and they weren't. It was kind of unnerving because they weren't sure whether or not we're actually going to go through with the blitz or we're going to pull back. In the meantime, we had the band was making some noise behind them, so they were surrounded. by the Indian Nation on both sides, and it ended up that we've got one of the first safeties that we've had in a while.
Well, the Indian Nation goes to 2-0 with a win over Urbana. We go into the final week of our non-league schedule before we get into conference play against another 2-0 team, Lima Senior. Coach, let's no bones about it. This has been a great rivalry, a great series between the two schools for many years. Friday night is going to be no different.
This is going to be, what we expect it's going to be, and that is a war. I know 2 years ago it was a game down to the final wire, 48-47, and we assumed it was going to be that same way last year. And we went up to Lima and played as bad as we've ever played, and they also played as good as they've ever played, which obviously forced us to play bad. It's not like you just come out and decide to play bad. They put the pressure on us pretty quick, pretty early, and we had a rough night in Lima, to say the least.
Well, certainly we will be the home team on Friday night, coming back to back home games. What can our fans expect to see from Lima? What offense do they run? Obviously, they graduate a very good running back, but they got some wide receivers that are very skilled and very talented.
Well, they've got two wide receivers that are about 6'4", 6'5" on both ends, and then they've got a new one this year that's 6'5". So the unusual thing that people will see when they come Friday night is going to have three wide receivers that are 6'5", then they have one that's 5'8", and the 5'8" guy is the fast guy. He's the guy they run the screens with, and the big three guys, they bring them vertically down the field. They've got an experienced quarterback that was the first team all-league quarterback back. So that internally, the quarterback and those four receivers are, the guts of that operation. They've got a great running back. They took their safety, who was all state last year, and moved him over to running back, so their ground game is good. And defensively, they play a multiple front defense. They do a lot of blitzing, a lot of things like that. And last year they hurt us with it. So we've had a little time this year, and hopefully we're going to be able to make the adjustments we need and be able to get ourselves rolling on offense.
One of the things that's glaring, if you're paying attention to the sidebars of this game, is the preparation that we put into this, and not just during the week we play Lima. It's 11 months. No disrespect to Lima, that's not necessarily their culture over there. Here, we really have to put the extra time in the weight room. We have to put the extra time in the film room, and our kids are really committed year-round. So we're just not getting geared up for Lima this week. It's been something we've been conditioned all year.
Correct. And I think, we've bought into the idea, and our kids have to buy into the idea, that if you have a team that's, got 2, 3, 4 really talented guys, you got to make sure you've got 11 guys that are geared up, ready to go as a team. And it's not like we don't have outstanding people ourselves. I think if anybody's been to our games, we've got some outstanding players in our own right. But I think, when it comes down to this, you've got to have those strong 11 guys all running the ball, all doing things. And that group, that team concept, hopefully can prevail over, 1 or 2 great football players. And we'll see Friday.
Well, I have no doubt the Indians are going to have a great night, and we'll continue the momentum. And we were talking about one of our spotlight seniors that we will be talking to in the second half of the show, Noah McGill. Noah said to me in the hallway today, he said, Mr. Hare, we need to make sure we keep the momentum going. We can't rest on our laurels. We've got to be ready to go. He said, I felt like maybe we rested on our laurels a little bit in that first half against Toledo St. John's, or came back in the second half and rested. Against a team like Lima, you got to be ready to go for 4 quarters.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And it came down to the final play, like I said 2 years ago. And there's no resting at this point on. This point on, every game, you can look down the line every one of those games, and you can really justify that particular week why that game is the most important game, and why that team probably is the most important, the best team you're going to play. Because every time you win one, then you create another big game, and you continue to create big games. And when you look on the horizon, you don't like to, you really don't look ahead and say, let's prepare for these guys this week, even though we're not playing them. But everybody naturally, has their eyes occasionally they lift their eyebrows up, and you see what's up ahead. And we know what's up ahead. And there's a lot of very critical football games left to be played.
Well, there's a lot of football to be played. 1 week at a time. Lima Senior is our focus this week. Let's talk a little bit about Noah McGill. Noah, he's a big part of our team, big part of our defense. What's fun about Noah is he takes what he does very seriously. He's very coachable, and you can watch him progressed through the years, he really is committed to the program, and everything you talk about outside of the locker room, he lives it.
Yeah, he's a guy that last year struggled a little bit. Really, I tease him all the time. I said, I don't know how you made it through those Saturday film sessions, because you would take some heat, and he did. In the weight room every day, didn't miss it, really serious, really focused, helping the younger kids out. And in the process, he's turned into, right now, I think he's as good an offensive tackle as we've had, on this football team. And him and Cam Hill make one of the greatest pairs we've had in a long time. And both of those guys, Cam's the same way. You get a chance to meet Cam, you'll see the same thing. They're both great products of the weight room, great products of our system, and just totally committed to be getting better. They're both amazing players.
It's easy to, when you're a player who gets the ball out or maybe who gets a lot of action, to come back week in and week out and take those maybe heating film sessions from the coach or even in the weight room. But when you're not seeing playing time and to continue to come ready and focused, that's just something about someone's character.
Yeah, it definitely is, and he really, you could just tell. He wasn't that kid that sometimes a kid you have to correct a kid, and it just gets repetitive over and over and over and over again. And at some point, you can kind of vision that kid rolling his eyes, going, okay. But no one ever did that. He was constantly okay, and you could see he was just mad at himself because he knew he could be a better player than what he was. And this year he knows he's a better player. And there's just such a difference in his confidence level. It's amazing.
Well, we did tease him, and we talked about in teasing in a good way. He shows a little bit about the diversity of a football player, that you can also be a good football player and you can also be one of the best people in show choir. And he is one of Mr. Westfall's leaders in what, if you were here with Mr. Westfall, TW would say one of the best show choirs in the state of Ohio. And he's very active in that. He's very active in track. So he does quite a bit to stay involved, not just in football. So I think he's a good example for others, for our young people, to say, hey, get involved.
Well-rounded guy, and he participates in class play, and he just does a lot of things. When you finally leave here, not everybody's going to go be a college football player. So you got to make sure you're rounded enough that you have some other interests, that you have another circle of friends, so to speak, and another circle of contacts. And I think he's preparing himself greatly for the future.
We missed it last week. We need to make sure we get him this week. We need to talk about our sponsor who gave us all those nice sandwiches in week one, right before we get on the bus to Toledo.
Yes, definitely. Ted's Meat Market. Last week we didn't get a chance to talk about it, and when we got on the bus up to Toledo, we had these. I mean, they were outstanding sub sandwiches, and we were able to get those to our kids right after school. Everybody enjoyed them, ate them, and we stopped at the QP afterwards, and I know the QP got a little bit of publicity, but I wanted to make sure that Ted's Meat Market also got some shout outs, because it was a great product, and also a great donation, and we appreciate it.
Well, people like Ted Davis who make those donations help us make our program a little bit better. As you said, hey, those guys are rolling out of school, we want to get them on the bus, and we want to head north, and we didn't have time to get a real meal to them, but they were able to eat on the bus, and because of Ted and people like Ted's Meat Market, the Indians helped prevail and win that night. So thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
Coach, we're going to wrap it up here. As we talk about Lima Senior, what would you say are 3 keys to the game Friday night for the Indians to walk out with a win?
I think number one, we have to have our offense in check. We got to make sure that we're playing mistake-free on offense, because I think that was one of our downfalls. I think number 2, we've got to make sure all the passing, or as much passing as we can, stays in front of us. We can't let things get behind us. We can't get in a foot race, because it's not something that we're good at, or something they're maybe a little bit better at. I think those are the 2 big things. And then our tackling's got to be crisp. We got to make sure we get our tackling right, especially on special teams. They have a freshman kicker. They have a couple things on their special teams that we've got to deal with, and that is, number 1, a freshman kicker. Number 2, they have a tendency to onside kick, to fake punt. If our fans remember last year, in the critical moment of the game, they onside kick, got it, and continued momentum. So we got to have 0 mistakes, absolutely 0 mistakes on our special teams.
Well, you bring up a good point. Against a good team like Lima, they're going to make runs.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to sustain those runs, be able to match those runs. It's going to be a game of runs like we did 2 years ago. It was 47-45 or 47-43, and it was a game that could have gone either way. we've got to be able to sustain that and make our own run within itself.
Exactly, and one of the things on our Sky report this week says we've got to deal with some adversity, and you know you're going to deal with some adversity. Some weeks you are. We knew it was week 1 we had to deal with some adversity. Week 2 we had to deal with some adversity. It was rain. Week 3 we're going to have to deal with something, and it's all about your body language. How you're going to react to that. It's not the things that kill you, so to speak. It's always how you react to those things. That's what does you in sometimes. So we got to maintain that body contact. One play should not disintegrate our focus. We're a good football team, and I think we've got some great players, and that's what we have to focus on.
We certainly encourage our Indian Nation to come out and watch our Indians here as they walk in against a good Lima senior team, which will probably be in what some would say maybe the game of the week in certain parts of the state. So we certainly look forward to you coming out and watching our Piqua Indians taking on Lima Senior here Friday night at 7 o'clock. Coach, thanks so much for taking time to being with us this week, and good luck in your final preparations.
Thank you.
We are going to be bringing back Noah McGill, our student athlete highlight of the week. I think you're going to enjoy Noah. We'll see you when you come back. Welcome back to the second half of the show, the Bill Nees Football Coaches Show, and with us is our very special guest, Senior Noah McGill. Noah, welcome to the second half of Week 2 show here of the Bill Nees Football Coaches Show.
It's great to be here.
Noah, let's talk a little bit about your senior. We're walking into Week 3, 2-0. How does it feel right now from a senior's perspective to be where we are, knowing that all that hard work that you put into it, hey, so far it's been paying off?
It feels pretty great, but still a lot of games out of us this season. Got to keep momentum. Can't slow down. Can't get cocky. That's the biggest thing. I think that happened to us a little bit the first game, halftime, going in, big lead, and we lost momentum. You just got to keep the train going. Got to keep rolling.
Well, let's talk about your expectations as a senior. I mean, you've been a part of this program for years, and now that you're a senior, what are some of the things that you were hoping for, either be individual or team? What are some of the things that Noah's looking forward to in the 2015 campaign?
Obviously, I hope for the best for everybody on the team. We've lost a couple seniors to injuries this year, defensive linemen especially. God forbid that happens to anyone else. But obviously, I want to go to the playoffs, but if that doesn't happen, I'm going to be happy with the season regardless. I want to earn at least second team G-Walk honors this year. We put a lot of work in. I think we have a good team, and I think we can go far. We just got to keep our heads.
Now, let's talk briefly about Friday night. Last Friday night, we're playing Urbana. You guys are out there. You're kicking off. You're ready to go, and Mother Nature takes over. And it's lightning, and you're sitting in this locker room for 2 hours. Describe what that's like, because our people just assume that you just come out of the locker room and you play and you win. There's a lot more to that. There's the mental preparation piece of it. What was that like for you guys?
Just like Tristan Cox said to Mr. Kaiser for the paper, we were like caged animals in here. We came in, we sat down, we were quiet the whole time. We watched some film from the 2006 state team. We watched the state game, and we watched the 1994. We watched the 1994 team, and that got us pumped up because those were great teams. And it let us know that there's tradition that we have to uphold here at Piqua. It's more than just going out there and playing for ourselves. It's playing for everybody before us.
Certainly a tradition here that goes way beyond the years that many of us can even remember. And certainly it looks like you are continuing that tradition with your teammates, and we certainly wish you well as we go into Week 3 against Lima Senior. Talk a little bit about you. A lot of people would if we would pay attention and they would go to other activities outside of athletics, they would see you in a different light. They see you kind of this mean, tough football guy on Friday nights. But in the winter and the spring, we kind of turn into a different personality. What is that?
I'm the co-bass section leader for the show choir this year, and I'm going to be a 4-year varsity leader on the track team as a thrower, and a 3-year participant in the musical.
What an honor that is to be a part of that. But a lot of people may know what a musical is, but they certainly know what the show choir is here and the tradition is. What's that like to be able to be a football player and also be a show choir member and probably one of the elite show choirs in the state of Ohio?
It feels really good to know that I'm on two of the best programs in the area for two completely different extracurricular activities in the city of Piqua. It's a great community to do stuff in because you always have support regardless of what you do. It's just nice.
I got to ask you, what's the guys say to you? You're on the show choir. Are they supportive of you? Do they tease you a little bit?
Yeah, obviously I get teased, but it's all in good fun. Nobody's really serious in the locker room. Locker room talk. You've all heard it before.
Sure.
Picking fun, I give it back. It's
part of the fun.
Hey.
Well, I can tell you those guys are there in droves and in numbers supporting you on show choir nights when we host here and any of our numbers of shows. So I do know they have a great deal of respect for you. And Coach Nees has even mentioned, he loves to see our guys getting involved with other things besides just football and being involved with show choir. And of course, Mr. Westfall and the great job he does is certainly a testimony to you and the ability that you have to be able to balance football, show choir, track, and then of course the most important thing, which is academics. Let's talk a little about where you're going to be a year from now. You're going to be graduating. What's your thoughts?
As of right now, I don't have any really concrete plans. I have a couple visits coming up in the futures for schools that have contacted me about athletics, football, and I'm going to base some of my decision off that. And I'm just going to feel it out. You know what I mean? Play out my senior year. I'm still in high school. I still have a whole year ahead of me. We're only week 3.
Well, no, I can tell you you're fun to be around, and I know you're a lot of fun for people to watch. You make it enjoyable, not just for football, but the all-around athlete. As my mother would say, you have to be able to balance books, ball, and you do it all very well. So we certainly wish you luck the rest of your senior year on the gridiron and then on the stage as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And this concludes week 2 of the Bill Nees Football Coaches Show. We will be back next week to discuss week 3's visit against Lima Senior here Friday night. Tickets are still available. Kickoff is at 7:00 p.m. You're not going to want to miss this one. Get your tickets in advance. Have a good night, everybody.